Hi everyone.
G'day.
And welcome to Parkside Live. We are so thankful that you have joined us, wherever you're joining us from. And yeah, we hope that tonight as we chat about what it means to be truly alive, that you might experience the life that only Jesus can bring.
Yeah, well, if you come to Sydney, it's worth taking a visit out to the Blue Mountains. And out to the Blue Mountains, there is a particular cliff, a point where the headlands come out and into a triangular shape. It's called Malaysia Point. And when you stand on top of the cliff, and it's actually a bit disconcerting because you're walking through bushes that vary from waist height to chest height, and then the track finishes and you take one more step and you are looking down over the edge of a 300-meter drop.
Oh, wow.
It's a big drop. And we're taking a group abseiling, and so we set up the ropes and went down, and the first 50-meter abseil was to an area about twice the size of this table here.
Yep.
So everyone abseils down and stays clipped in, attached. And then the next one, you're abseiling down a corner, which means that you've got a rock face here and then we have a rock face here. And I went down first and I'd take someone else with me, and our job was setting up the next set of anchors for the group. And so we did that and set the anchors in, made sure that we had some redundancy. So if one pulled out, we were okay. And then obviously you had to test the anchors.
Yeah.
And so I walked up to the rope and started walking backwards towards the edge, as you do when you're abseiling. And the person who was with me said, "Isn't that supposed to be attached to you?" Now, if you've ever been, they're not great words to hear when you're on the edge of a cliff. If you've ever been abseiling, you realise, well, you know that you wear a harness. Connected to the harness is a small steel clip called a carabiner, and then there's another piece of equipment called a figure of eight, called because it looks like a figure of eight.
Yeah.
The rope is supposed to be threaded through that, and that's what slows you on your descent. And as I'm walking towards, I look down and I realise I have not threaded the rope through the figure of eight. And so I put on my best instructor hat, gave a dry chuckle and went, "Ha ha ha, well picked up." And
Like I meant it all along.
stepped forward, clipped on, and then really hoped that the person who was with me could not see my heart beating out of my chest. I thought it was shaking my jumper. It was, and in that moment, I felt very much alive. I was...
Yes.
I think more out of contrast than anything else. And as we go through our lives, we can have near life and death experiences like that kind of remind us really of how short life is, our own mortality. We can have other moments that perhaps might not seem so juicy and exciting. But for example, this week I'm doing some land clearing as part of the job that I do, and the job grew. Initially, we were only supposed to do one tree felling, and that went to 3, and then we're supposed to clear some bush, some undergrowth, which was just mammoth. And there was a few points in the afternoon where we had to readjust our priorities to get it done. And as the sun started to set, I can still remember the feeling of looking and seeing the 3 trees gone. We'd mulched them into a pile. The shrubs gone, mulched them, and I just went, oh, and I was sweating, scratched, frustrated, but we'd done it. And it was a sense of relief, but I also felt like this is what I'm made for. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I felt very much alive. And we want to just explore for a moment, when did you last feel alive? In the last year, when have you felt the most alive? And what do you think?
For me, probably just recently this week, like things that make me feel alive are when I'm just running along the beach. There's no one else on there, but there's the wind and the waves, especially even if it's a dark kind of day and the wind is howling. Like I often even run with my arms outstretched, and it's like, yes, I just feel, like there's just a big yes, this is it.
This is it.
I'm loving it. I feel alive. I can breathe. Like It's like, yes, and I never want it to end.
That thought of, I'm made for this. Yeah, what are the feelings that are going on?
Oh, there's joy, there's kind of some kind of relief because someone else this around the table this morning said they can kind of breathe a bit better when that happens as well. Same with me. It's like, and there's a lightness, a feeling like when I'm in that, it does, like everything else can still be the same in my world, the same kind of chaos, maybe questions I have, maybe things that aren't going as I would want, but they're in the midst of that is like a peace and a rest, maybe even in the wildness of the wind there that comes. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And of course, we recognise too that as we're talking about what it does mean to be alive, you may be struggling to recall the last time that you felt truly alive. That perhaps this year has been hard, that this is just a difficult period of time that you're going through in your life, a lot of overwhelm. And when we engage that thought, we recognise actually that while we are still alive, that there is certainly something missing. And it's quite hard to define life and what being really alive means. And that's what we're going to explore tonight, is that what does it actually mean to be alive? And we're asking that question, and we recognise that for some people it is an existential philosophical question. For others, it's actually an existential question that what does it mean to be alive when I'm struggling for food? Where we are, you may have been keeping up with some of the pictures that are coming out of Palestine at the moment, where people are genuinely struggling for food. And what does it mean for us as human beings to be alive? And so we're going to draw some inspiration from the scriptures here. I'm reading from John chapter 6, and I'm going to come down here and just John chapter 6, and I will start at verse 61, and it simply says this: Jesus was aware that many of his disciples were complaining, and so he said to them, "Does this offend you?" We live in a world, it seems, where it's very easy to take offense. But if you're reading along for yourself, but see, we can encounter things that offend us. And in this case, Jesus has actually made a huge claim. He's actually said, if you want to discover what it truly means to be alive, I want you to consume me. He actually uses the word eat. He says, I am the bread of life, eat of me. Now, that's a bit bamboozling. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it sounds weird to me. But when I think about it, because Jesus is also called like the bread of life, but also the word, it's like if I'm spending time with him, maybe reading the Bible, it's like you're taking it in. So it's like food, and it can nourish you, encourage you. Yeah, that kind of thing. I think that's what I think about when I think about that, but it does sound strange.
Well, if you're at a party and goes, hey man, let's have a really good night, and your friend goes, the kid having a good night, just eat me. Well, and perhaps that's not a great choice of phrase there on my behalf either, but this is not an invitation to cannibalism, but it's a statement that says, if you're looking for something more than existence, that it's found, number one, outside of ourselves, I think. That when we live a life that is inwardly focused, and only worries about the issues that directly touch our lives, that we shift into a way of living that focuses on just getting through. I just want to get through today. I just want to get through to this week, and then I want to get to my weekend where I can go and do my things. And I think the texture of this is difficult, because living that life, getting through the weekend, and you may go out on your jet ski, on your motorbike, you may go for a walk on your beach, you may do something stupid like throw yourself off a cliff, and that makes you feel alive. And yet, when you step back and you look at the whole of your life, you can identify that there is something missing. And that's a hard thing to grasp, that there's something missing from my life. And we can actually avoid that question. You may be now watching this on a screen. We have access to screens wherever we go in this country, and perhaps where you're watching this, it's the same. That if I've got some difficult, some hard questions arising about who am I? What is the person that I'm becoming? Am I really satisfied with the direction of my life? I can just distract myself.
Yep.
And sometimes it's watching a screen. Sometimes it is engaging in some entertainment. Sometimes it is numbing myself so that actually I feel less alive, whether through a bag or pills or whatever. And I think the irony is that sometimes we hold those things up as, no, this is what it means to be alive. When we look at ourselves, we realize I'm actually just avoiding this deep question that is troubling me. This deep question that is challenging me right now. And, we see in this narrative that we're reading here that when someone challenges you with that question, the question of existence, it's very easy to turn away and say, no, I don't want to. And yet it is those questions that shape our lives as individuals, as humanity. It's when we're willing to grasp questions beyond how much am I making this week? Grasp questions beyond my world that say, this is us together. What is the direction that the globe is taking? That we can then live a life that makes an impact on this world. And so as we read down a bit further, Jesus says, look, what are you going to think if you see the Son of Man? That's Jesus talking to himself, and he goes, ascend to heaven. And then he says these words. He says, the Spirit alone gives life. Human effort accomplishes nothing. And the very words I have spoken to you are spirit and life. We can build a life physically. You put a lot of effort into creating a home life that helps our children to flourish. Nurture them, take care of them, get up in the middle of the night, like the hard things. We can build a life that says, okay, I'm going to provide shelter for the people that depend on me. I'm going to provide food for the people that depend on me. And some of us will go to great energy, long hours, simply to build that life. And yet, even as we meet those immediate needs that we have, it doesn't deal with these questions of who am I becoming? What does it really mean for me to be alive here? And then Jesus challenges and he says, look, I am giving you something here. Something that is going to go beyond perhaps what you've experienced. Something that's going to give you a different view of who you are, of the world and your place in it. But then he says, but some of you don't believe me. And then it says, Jesus knew from the beginning which ones didn't believe, and he knew who would betray him. And then he said, that is why I've said that people can't come to me unless the Father draws them to me. And at this point, many more people turned away. And when you're going to engage with these questions of what does it actually mean to be alive, it can actually be quite lonely because it's easier to avoid the question. And yet, if you're still watching right now, you're someone who is grasping with the deep and the challenging questions, someone who is searching for that answer. What does it mean for me to be truly alive? Who is the person that I'm becoming? And then Jesus turned to these 12 who were closest to him and he simply says this, are you going to go as well? And then one of them, Simon Peter, says, Lord, to whom would we go? You have the word of eternal life. Now, there's this word eternal. We don't use that very much. When we think of eternity, what comes to your mind?
Forever?
Forever, yeah. Unending.
Yeah.
Unending, yeah. And I think when Jesus was speaking to this crowd, they had this idea that everyone would die, but then there was this moment when everyone would be raised again, and they'd go and do whatever they need to do. Where we're sitting right now, we are in a world where some people go, no, this is it. You live your dash, born this date, dash, died this date, that's all you've got. Other people say there's something beyond, and yet neither of those definitions explain what it means to be truly alive. And this question, eternal life, is not something that happens later. This is a life that we step into now. Yeah. I mean, what impact do you feel that's made on your life?
I think it helps me to have hope because this isn't all there is.
Yeah.
Especially when, if I'm in the midst of stuff that's hard. But also it helps me live with more, I guess, purpose because this isn't all there is, because there is hope and there is this life that will continue on. And I don't know all the ins and outs and how exactly that works. But I guess like I have hope and purpose because of that. Yeah. And this eternal life, it's something beyond what we normally experience. It's an invitation to something more. Yeah. It's an invitation even to sometimes actually a greater challenge, as we see here, that many people choose to go a different way. But yet it's an invitation to live a life where the deepest part of who you are connects to the deepest part of the one who gives life to the universe. That it is energized, it is guided, it is informed by a connection to Jesus. And if you're exploring this question, what does it mean for me to be truly alive? Then I want to invite you to actually take this invitation. When Jesus says, I can give you this life. And to simply step in and say, Jesus, I want this life that you're offering. I want a life that is energized by you, informed by you. I want to step into this unending life that begins right now. And there'll be challenges on that pathway, but it is a life of love and energy, a life deeply connected to the life that powers the universe. And we're going to invite you right now to take a step of faith. Perhaps you feel like this is a step into the unknown. It's a step into connection with Jesus, the creator of the universe. And it simply says, Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And that may be a step that you've taken before and need to rediscover. It may be a step that you want to take for the first time. Everyone is welcome. This is an invitation that's open to all. It simply says, Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And if you're ready, then I invite you just to take that step right now. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that even now you start to experience something of what it is for your life to be deeply entangled and enmeshed with the life of Jesus. We'd love to help you, whatever the next step is on your journey. Please drop us a comment or send us a DM. Yep.
Thanks for tuning in. God bless you.
Bye.